A video is making rounds on Twitter of a poll worker in Pennsylvania opening ballots and tearing up the ones that voted for Trump. But that's not the full story. We'll get more into that in a moment. All right, so we've got a video here of the person who allegedly is tearing up ballots in Pennsylvania. Let's play that.
Donald Trump.
Okay, so like I said in the beginning, this is allegedly a poll worker in Pennsylvania opening the ballots and tearing up the ones that were marked for Trump.
And this goes on. There's like 5 or 6 ballots that he goes through and tears up the ones for Trump, but then puts the Kamala ones back into the paper slips.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird video because it's so clear.
Right.
I mean, somebody's got to be standing like right over him.
Yeah, filming it.
You know, so I don't know. What's your...
Well, so I was on Twitter. I was scrolling through some comments, and they have community notes now. And it turns out that multiple sources have said that this is fake. They looked up close on the ballots, and it turns out they're not actually real ballots from that part of Pennsylvania. And so you said you had an opinion on this about how you think...
Yeah, it's believed to be propaganda.
Yeah.
So it's to discourage Republican voters in Pennsylvania from voting early.
Yeah.
Because they're rigging it. They're gonna tear it up. So it's propaganda. They're doing it backwards. So before, oh no, we're not rigging the election. But now they're sending out videos like, oh yeah, we're going to rig it. So don't vote. You have to vote on the date. So they're trying to discourage voting in Pennsylvania.
Well, either way, I mean, the law is pretty clear. If you're in line, they have to wait for you to cast your ballot.
Okay, yeah.
So that's what the law is.
Right.
Okay. So, I say, hey, surround the building 5, 6, 7 times, stay there till midnight, baby, whatever it takes. But we're casting our ballots. I've already voted, so I'm all set. Yeah.
So do you think it's since they've changed all the election laws and people are voting early, do you think that this is something we should use to our advantage? Maybe it's not something we wished for before. We like having it one day and getting the results that night.
We have to use it to our advantage because the left has done it consistently. And ever since they started all this nonsense, it started off with just, if you were absentee, if you were sick, going on vacation out of the country, whatever, you get a ballot. Yeah. Now you get a ballot for any reason, and now they want to make it in Connecticut. They actually had it on the ballot box to make it a law.
Yeah, a ballot referendum.
Yeah, that they're sending out, absentee ballots to everybody.
Yeah, they want to amend the state constitution in Connecticut.
So
that anyone, for any reason, or for no reason at all, can request an absentee ballot and vote that way.
And we know there's tons of people on the rolls that are dead. The Democrats are really good at scrounging up names.
Yeah.
So, in fact, there used to be a guy who'd sit in his car down at the near a cemetery, and he'd be writing down the guy's name.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Really? So it's what a way to get names, right?
Yeah.
Go to the cemetery, take them right off the stone.
It's a good idea. That's a good idea. I like
had to be a Democrat. One other person would waste their time doing that. He had to be getting paid.
Okay, yeah.
For sure.
By whom, I don't know.
Speaking of that, you have a story there about Kamala Harris talking about Jimmy Carter voting.
Did you see that? I mean, I thank God. I mean, I didn't vote for Jimmy Carter, but I thought he was a horrible president.
Yeah.
But I think he was a nice guy.
Okay, yeah.
He really sincerely was a nice guy. He never got involved in very much vicious, politics, except maybe in the last 15 years before he got really ill.
Okay.
The Democrats kind of called on him, and I guess he owed favors, so he had to come up. But you could tell it wasn't really his personality. Okay. But here he is. They wheel him in.
Yeah.
The guy could barely. He's not even there. He's not conscious. And so Kamala says, if Jimmy Carter can vote, so can you.
Yeah.
Well, to me, that means, hey, find as many people that are basically unconscious and bring them, and, we'll get them to
fill
vote.
out a ballot for them.
Yeah, sign a ballot, whatever it takes,
Yeah, well, we know that's
horrible.
That's what the Democrats do. They'll go to like an elderly facility, go in with a bunch of ballots.
Yeah.
Half these people are just lulled to sleep basically by medicine or whatever because it's hard to take care of them, whatever. And so they end up filling out ballots for them, just getting them to sign them, and then that's how they harvest ballots.
Yeah, and it should be, and that's another part of this whole absentee ballot. It either has to be the person or the person who has legal right.
Yeah.
Like to handle their finances and everything else.
Right, yeah.
Nobody else.
Yeah, power of attorney. Yeah.
Yeah, it can't be like some distant cousin that hasn't
Right.
gone to see, the person in the convalescent home for 10 years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we got a super important election. Hey, Auntie so-and-so here, sign this.
Right.
There's too much of that. You know how many people are in nursing homes? And with my generation getting older, there's going to be a lot of them in the nursing homes. So hopefully I'm not there. I don't know.
Well, pretty soon.
Yeah, you better come visit me.
Yes, sir. All right. Speaking of that, we've got a video here of Mel Gibson. I think this was yesterday. So on Thursday, we'll just play that video real quick.
What do you think the world will be like in a second term with President Trump's second term? A lot of people
I know what it'll be like if we let her in,
yeah. Oh, really?
and that ain't good.
Yeah. Well, listen.
Miserable track record, appalling track record, no policies to speak of.
Yeah. And the border, right?
And she's got the IQ of a fence post.
IQ of fence post.
Yeah. Hey, listen, he's he's pretty popular, at least in my generation.
Right.
I think in general nobody wants to hear from Hollywood.
Right.
I think that's just in general.
Yeah.
But guys like this, when they do speak, since he's not always talking politics, people have a tendency to listen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think that was a funny comment. She's got the IQ of a fence post. And he talks about her appalling record, which is true. And I think people will resonate with that there because the guy asks him, okay, what's it going to look like for a Trump presidency? And, well, we all know what it will look like because we had one. But his response is, well, I know what hers looks like, and we know we don't want that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where we have to learn to answer. But a lot of people aren't smart off the cuff, a quick answer. But, we got to learn, instead of just standing there with our mouth open going, well, I don't really know.
Yeah.
No, we do know.
Yes.
So pretty simple.
Yeah,
and her,
definitely.
it's obvious. She hasn't had one sane, understandable conversation in all of these appearances.
No.
Anywher.
Yeah.
And when
Other than when she's talking about, I could be, whatever. She didn't say dumb or whatever she said, called herself.
Oh, yeah.
Other than that, I think that was about the only sincere thing she said.
Or the other time when she was at a rally, I think this is last week, and someone cries out, Jesus is Lord or something like that. And she pauses and she laughs. She's like, you're at the wrong rally. You belong at the smaller one down the street.
Yeah, that was her.
That's her true personality coming out for sure.
That was her personality.
And that was juxtaposed to J.D. Vance, who was at a rally, and somebody behind him yelled out something similar, and he keeps talking for a second, then he pauses and he turns back. He's like, that's right.
Yeah.
So you can tell there's a stark difference between the two parties. And like you said earlier today, this is a battle between good and evil. It's
That's
no longer
really what it is.
Republican and Democrat.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on. So Bill Gates was indicted in the Netherlands. I have an article here. I'll read most of it. But basically, so a Dutch court has ruled that Bill Gates will face trial in the Netherlands over his involvement in misleading the public about the safety of COVID-19 vaccines. So the plaintiffs, there's like 7 of them. They filed some sort of complaint, or they started a trial or something, and I think it was like last year, and one of them has died since due to the vaccine.
Yeah.
Many of them are very ill now. So they named a lot of people, including the I think the former leader of the Netherlands. And anyway, Gates was named, and so he had to attend the trial. And so Gates attempted to evade the court's jurisdiction by claiming that as an American citizen, he doesn't have to go to the Netherlands. Anyway, the court rejected the argument, and
Good.
so Gates was represented in court by a lawyer, and the lawyer didn't attend the hearing in person. This was September 18th, so like a little over a month ago.
It's amazing how we don't hear much about this.
Yeah. And his legal team crumbled, and the court ruled in favor of the plaintiffs. So Gates had to pay the lawyer fees for the plaintiffs, which was only like $1,500. But now he's also he has to respond to the allegations in Dutch court with a new hearing set for November 27th, 2024.
Hey, that should make big news.
Yeah. No one hears about it.
And so RFK Jr. came out a couple days ago, maybe it was yesterday or something, saying, because Gates also, like 2 days ago, just donated $50 million to a pro-Harris super PAC. So RFK Jr. is saying, he's implying that they're going to, Trump's administration, if he gets in, is going to help hold Gates accountable, saying that he's donating $50 million to this other candidate because he doesn't want to be held accountable here.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be held accountable in the Netherlands. We don't know how that's going to play out. But if he has to stand trial here, that's a pretty big deal.
Well, the only way we're really going to, take back America, if you will, from the crazies on the left, is some people have to pay the price for what they've done.
Yeah.
And I mean, this Gates has no medical background. He's got no degree in medicine. It's just because he's a wealthy entrepreneur that somehow or other he gets to basically tell us what to do.
Right.
That's just wrong. And then we got guys like Fauci, being nothing but government bureaucrats their entire life. And they tell us what to do, and he lies the whole time.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be held accountable.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah.
Somebody does, yeah.
I don't know how far it'll go because 4 years is really a short period of time for administration to be doing a whole lot. But in any case, I think some heads have to roll somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's just in the bureaucracy and Trump is able to cut it down by 50 or 100,000, that'll make a severe difference.
That
because
would be great.
The problem is right now when the president gets into office, he can change about 5,000 people for personnel.
Yeah.
And the issue with that is you've got a bureaucracy of 2 million people. So whether you're president or not, like Republican, Democrat, a whole lot doesn't change within the government itself because it's still led by those career bureaucrats.
Still led by the bureaucrats. In fact, that was one of the things that I really, wanted to kind of throw in here today.
Okay.
People were asking, when September 11th happened, when October 7th happened last year, and they, basically destroyed 1,200 lives, Israeli lives, and murdered, butchered, destroyed families.
Yeah.
That they say the information from there leaked. That's how they, were able to be so aggressive, and basically the IDF really wasn't aware of what was happening.
Okay.
So they were saying something leaked. But nobody really knew what leaked.
Okay.
So we have the Pentagon, we have the State Department, and inside our Pentagon and inside our State Department, we have a bunch of Iranian spies. Now, people don't know this, but this is some facts here. They're sympathizers. One of the guys is named Bob Malley. Bob Malley is actually the leader of this area of the State Department. He's a PLO sympathizer. I mean, so he's being paid by the government, and yet he's a PLO sympathizer? I don't get it. It all started with Barack Obama. Barack Obama put Bob Malley in position.
Right, okay.
And he's the point man for Obama and for Obama's strategy. What's Obama's strategy? You might not remember it, but it was a realignment strategy of the Middle East. He wanted to realign. In other words, he wanted to give empowerment to Iran in hopes that they would kind of come to the table and negotiate. It's stupid. You know what I mean? We're going to negotiate with evil. Well, that's pretty much what he thought. So this whole realignment strategy came from Barack Obama about the Middle East. So Obama puts Malley into his government. What does Malley do? Malley helped infiltrate an Iranian agent of influence. Her name is Ian Taba, and put into some of the most sensitive government positions. First in the State Department, which is now led by Blinken. Now, these people inside, their job is to find out what's happening in the Middle East, especially anything concerning Israel. So the Assistant Secretary of Defense is what this person's name is, her title. Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations. Now, what's a special operation? Well, a special operation is anything that's special. Okay, in other words, the government, our government didn't declare war. The Congress didn't declare war. The president didn't say we got to go do it. This is a special operation. In other words, it's QT. It's hidden.
Right, covert
It's something
action.
that's done as a covert action. Exactly.
Okay.
So these are the people that are giving billions of dollars to Iran. In the Obama administration, you might remember he sent out pallets of money, onto the tarmac.
Yeah.
In Iran. This is ridiculous. And all that money comes back to support Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis. All of this is where it comes from. So these people are in our own government. So when we ask, how can these leaks happen? Think about it this way. It happened on purpose. And here's the ultimate irony. The Biden administration talks about the leak just recently. They were talking about the leak. And they said this, well, this is kind of unfortunate that we had a leak. But there will be no more Iranian leaks. We're assured of that. That's pretty much, my rendition of what they said. In other words, we can assure you that there will be no more. How could they assure unless they were the ones that did the leaking?
Right.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So the White House was confident, this was just this past Monday, that there'll be no further surprise document dumps. And the only way they could say that is if they decided not to do it anymore. They were going to relent and let off. So this is the problem we have with our government. There's a lot of deep staters that were not put in there through elections.
Right.
They were appointed.
Yeah.
And they're there for life. I mean, until they retire. You think about some people could be in there 20, 30 years. Well, that's what's happening now. And their idea is to follow the crazy strategy of realigning the Middle East to try to get them to, come to the table on their own, which will never happen. No. Iran, if they get a nuclear weapon, they're going to use it.
Yeah.
So anyhow, these are the kind of stories that you don't see in mainstream media.
Yeah.
Which, when I was young, the news was known for uncovering things.
Right.
It didn't matter left, right, who was in it. They want to bring it up, man. They want to get a Pulitzer Prize or whatever whatever the prizes they get for doing good journalism.
Yeah.
We don't see that any longer.
Well, yeah, it's
sad.
not rewarded anymore.
No.
There's no incentive.
Very sad. So we can only pray that, I don't think, even if Trump has a completely successful 4 years, which I know he will, but I'm sure they're going to try to disable him, day after day, week after week, month after month, in any way that they can. But even if he does the most possible in 4 years, it's still not going to be enough.
Right.
No.
There's a lot of people that have been in that government for a long period of time. Some of them are still young, in their, believe it or not, late 20s, early 30s. So they have 30, even 40 years of government service ahead of them.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the scary part.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think BRICS got together 2 days ago. There's like 36 leaders.
Yeah.
And I don't fully understand the whole thing, but it's basically a world organization for peace or whatever the heck. Global. Yeah. So they got together and a few things happened. One, they all came together and condemned Israel and said that there needs to be a ceasefire, which, we kind of know that everyone's against Israel. We've known that. In the first 2 weeks of the attack, everyone's pro-Israel, but then slowly it shifted to Israel's bad. They're causing genocide. So that happened, and then Putin was presented with a BRICS note. So it was like it's like the new version of the dollar to replace the dollar eventually, which is pretty scary too. I mean,
sure. All the BRICS members are basically coming together in order to form a new trade union, if you will.
Yeah.
And their idea is to dump the dollar, basically.
Yeah.
And, what will they put in its place? Believe it or not, it's probably going to be the Chinese yuan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, that's, whether you realize it or not, that's extremely scary. They have the largest population in the world, number one. They have a fairly large economy. They've got a huge army. And now we're going to let them be a reserve currency. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Man, we're setting up for the end times, so baby. Yeah. Well, it says that in the last days, there'll be a large army coming down from the north. Well, if you look at Israel, you look north. I mean,
that's why I found it kind of interesting that they're all condemning Israel, because they're all coming together, forming this union of the entire global world, and they're all against
Israel.
So,
which is like the smallest little speck, on the planet. If you look at any map, I mean, you can barely see Israel unless it's blown out of proportions, and it's not materialistically correct,
right?
It's crazy that people even care. Like, why is this even a discussion? It's a small little plot of land. I think it's like a third of Missouri. It's very small.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah,
You could drive right across it in a few hours. It's really nothing. And people don't see the biblical significance at all because of hatred.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But, we know, those of us who've been enlightened, our eyes have been opened, I mean, we can see that. Obviously, it's about good versus evil.
Yeah.
And God's chosen people, for whatever reason, he chose Israel.
Yeah.
And the whole world's going to come against Israel once again.
Right. Yeah. All right. And with that, let's get to Ask the Pastor.
We have to use Scripture against the enemy in order to get him to flee. You got to stick with the Word, though. You can't hit him with anything else. It's got to be the Word of God.
All right, Pastor Mike, this week is a two-part question. So part one, what is a biblical fast? And then part two, is a Daniel fast a fast according to the Bible? So we'll do part one first. What is a biblical fast?
Well, what does the word fast mean?
Abstaining from food.
There you go. If you look it up anywhere, it says abstain from food.
Okay.
And when Jesus fasted, what did he do? Oh, he carried a sack of potatoes with him, right? Oh no, wait a minute. Maybe it was like carrots.
I don't remember reading about the
Sure.
carrots.
He didn't carry any, vegetables with him out into the desert.
No.
That's kind of shocking. I don't know. See, fasting means abstinence of food.
Right.
Biblically speaking, it means you don't eat
Okay. At all.
at all. That's a fast.
What about drinking water? Because I don't think Jesus
No,
drank water either.
you
have to.
You have to drink water. You can only go 3 days without water.
But didn't Jesus
So-
go without water too?
No.
No.
You can go without water for 3 days.
Okay.
You can't go without water for much more than that.
Right.
I tried to fast without water.
Oh, really?
Very difficult. And I
Yeah.
fasted 40 days. I fasted 10 days. I fasted 20 days. I've done all of those fasts.
Without
Yeah.
water?
No.
Oh.
Food. Without food.
Okay.
Absent means abstinence of food.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what's happened over the past century, about 100 years or so, maybe a little give or take, probably a little more than that, early 1800s. There were people that, in reading the Bible, come up with, when Daniel fasted, Daniel ate vegetables. Okay, well, great for Daniel. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So immediately Christians like, oh, well, that's great,
Yeah.
But here's my perspective on it. It's better to fast one day. It's better to fast one meal than it is to go on fasting, eating vegetables and being completely full, because you're not going to spend the time that you should have spent eating, praying. The whole idea of a fast is to get you closer to God,
Right.
not to make it 8 days, 10 days, 21 days. Oh, I made it 21 days. It doesn't matter if you make it only one day.
Right.
But if you fast, you're giving up something that your body needs.
Right. Okay.
When you're eating food, I don't care if it's vegetables, potatoes, root food, celery, I don't care what you call it, your body is getting sustenance.
Yeah.
My opinion is a Christian fast is no food. Now,
Okay, so you're basically supposed to be hungry. You're supposed to not have the nutrients and the sustenance of food, and you're supposed to get that from God instead. Is that what the point
it's
of
not
it is?
about getting sustenance naturally.
spiritual
It's spiritual.
sustenance. Yeah.
Right. And that's why now people, I have sugar diabetes, I can't. Well, that's all fine and dandy. Okay. You're better off not fasting.
Yeah.
Okay. Or fast a meal.
Mm-hmm.
See, with God, it's not about, God requires obedience more than sacrifice.
Yeah.
Scripture talks about that all the time. But people are always into the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Well, I made it 21 days. I'm bragging on I made it
Right.
10 days. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I struggle with that whole thing. As a pastor, there's some people want to fast, and I try to give people options
Yeah.
to do this, to do that. But my heart is very simply straightforward, as blatant as it could be. It's not a fast unless you're not eating.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and
Period.
simply just turn to the example of Jesus.
Yeah.
Because he is the example. The Bible
That's
lays
the
that out.
example. Forget about everybody else.
In the end, yes. So
Yeah.
he fasted for 40 days without food.
There you go.
So there's your example.
That's the example. And
Yeah.
he fasted more than that too.
Right,
Because
yeah.
he would fast, regularly.
Regularly, yeah. It says
In
that.
fact,
Okay.
in the Jewish tradition, you start getting into the Talmud, start getting into Jewish tradition, what you find is they fast as well, often sun up to sundown.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So to the Christian, that would be like, oh, well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That means not eating during your course of your day.
Right.
When
Okay.
you're working.
Yeah.
And then the sun goes down, 6 o'clock, you eat.
Okay. Yeah.
But you eat one meal, not eat until 12 midnight, until you're ready to purge yourself so that you can go to sleep. Okay. You're not up at 11 o'clock cooking pasta. Okay. It's a one meal thing. In other words, you are purposely holding down the flesh. There's a word, I'm missing it right now, but you're pushing your flesh down. Basically. Denying what it needs. In order to be able to spend time in the presence of God.
Okay. Yeah. Because we, as a church, did a fast. We did the Daniel fast. And I can just say from experience, I was eating vegetables and whatnot. And so maybe I don't have great self-control, but I was eating to the point where I was full. I have a hard time just eating a little bit and then remaining hungry. If I'm going to eat, I'm going to eat. So even though it was vegetables or potatoes or any sort of like beans, bananas, apples, I was still eating and I didn't feel hungry. Whereas when I did the fast last time, where it was just water or just liquids, it was a lot harder and
absolutely.
You really felt it. You felt kind of lightheaded, dizzy, maybe a little tired, but this time it definitely wasn't the same because I was eating.
See, a lot of pastors have made fasting popular, which, again, is a good thing. Like Jettison Franklin, I love the guy. I think he's one of the most sincere preachers out there. I never met him personally, but I just think he's a great guy. I read his book on fasting. I think it's wonderful. But again, I think we've popularized it so much that it's more about the doing than about the result of being in the presence of God. And if we can get back to that, I mean, I had a struggle because being the pastor of church, I feel like I have to lead. You know, I have to lead by example. So if I started doing a Daniel fast, there's going to be food everywhere. You know what I mean? My wife and I, we've gone round about this a few times too, because you know, it's harder for a woman to fast. It is difficult. Their body's made different than men. Their ability to be able to, you know, not eat.
Are you calling me a woman?
I listen if the shoe fits, brother. I mean, you know, I don't know what to tell you, but you know, I think people should try true fasting. And even if, like I said, if it's one day and you go from sun up to sundown and you go without meals all day, I mean, it's powerful. It is.
What about fasting? Like a meal every day. So you fast, or you fast breakfast and lunch, and you do dinner every day for however many days. Is that fasting too?
Of course it is. Before I met my wife, and when I met her, and for a couple of years after, when we started the church, every Tuesday I would fast every Tuesday. I wouldn't eat. So I wake up in the morning. I went to bed. I stopped eating at night, whatever that meal was on Monday. And then I didn't eat until Wednesday morning. So I went a full 24 hours with no food.
For how long?
You know, every Tuesday.
How many years?
Oh,
or months or
5 or 6 years I did that every Tuesday.
Okay.
And but you get into it. It's good for your body as well. Intermittent fasting is what it's called. You know? It's really good for your body.
Because we're technically not supposed to be eating 3 meals a day.
I don't. I mean, Well, I mean, I'm not much for breakfast unless I'm on vacation. I don't know what that is. I think it's a psyche thing. You know what I mean? Or if I see somebody else eating it, and then I'll want
breakfast is great if it's like you're going out to eat or it's like a delicious meal. Otherwise,
nah. I don't really care.
So
I'd rather have a steak.
Bottom line, it's quality over quantity. You don't need the 21 days. Don't take this wrong. You don't need the 21 days if it's not a true fast and you're still taking time to prepare food and you're not actually spending that time in the Word or praying. And instead of that, it would be better to spend one day fasting in prayer, whatever, than 21 days not really fasting.
I'm actually trying to get us to that place. And the older you get, believe me, the more difficult it is. It's not easy. When I was younger, I fasted 40 days 2 or 3 times. I mean, it was not difficult. The first few days were, but then, you know, there were a group of us, we get together, you know. It kind of went pretty quick. The 40 days went by. Today, 40 days is like a lifetime. Like, dude, I can't, you know, it's a long time. So I would prefer, as you said, you know, it's more about the quality of what you're doing than it is trying to make the time 5, 10, 20, 21, 40 days.
Yeah.
I think that spiritually you can gain a significant advantage by imagine if every Christian were to take one day out of their life, even like a year, but like one day a month would be like phenomenal. One day a month where you didn't eat, and instead you spent that time praying. So if you would eat and it'd take 20 minutes or 30 minutes to eat, you spend that 30 minutes, whatever, in prayer. I think Christianity would be changed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it would really change the way we do everything.
Yeah.
I think we'll hear clearer from God. I think we'll have a better perspective. I think we'll learn more. I think the Holy Spirit will be able to speak to our spirits, and we'll be able to discern it much better. So I really would like to do it, because I know come the beginning of the year, people are going to want to fast again, 10, 21 days. And I'm going to rebel.
Okay.
I'm going to probably teach on it before they start to talk about it.
All right.
And try to see if I can, I don't want to say convince people.
Well, you changed my mind.
Well, I don't want to do it to convince people. I want to do it to just throw something out there.
Yeah.
And then you pray about it. You think about it. You know, and what would be better? Struggling to make it through every day for 10 days.
Right.
Basically moaning, whining, and complaining inside without saying it maybe verbally, but you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Or a pure, beautiful fast for one day of sacrifice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd take the day.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the Lord would too. It's it's the same thing.
It reminds me of the Lord's Prayer, or the Our Father, where you read it and you see there's such depth to it, but it's like, I can't remember, I looked at it a few days ago or a week ago, it's like 3 sentences. That's it.
Yeah.
And then right before that, he talks about the Gentiles and they're heaping up all these phrases, almost like incantations to get God's attention. He's like, no, stop. Just pray from your heart, and it doesn't have to be this long thing. So I think that could be applied to fasting too. He wants our delight, not our like drudgery trying to get through it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you brought that up, because years ago, back in the 80s, before you guys were even a twinkling in your mother's eye or whatever, there was a guy by the name of Larry Lee, and he got an idea from Scripture about the whole concept of the prayer that we call, the Lord's Prayer,
right?
Found in Matthew chapter 6. And before that, there was another guy, the largest church in the world, Dr. Paul Yonggi Cho. He's gone on to be with the Lord a few years back now. He was really well known for that. To be able to pray for 1 hour, he said, is so simple if people only followed the model prayer in Matthew chapter 6. Because each part of it, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Yeah.
You're praising him.
Oh, yeah.
You spend time just praising him.
Yeah.
Thy kingdom come. You're praying his will be done on earth. Every section can take a few minutes, and before you know it, wow, you've spent an hour.
Yeah.
So it's a model prayer. It's not something
It's a
that we
template.
recite, over and over again, kind of like I grew up in Catholicism, say 5 Our Fathers and 13 Hail Marys, and you're forgiven, It's more a model of how we should pray. And fasting, I think it's the same thing all through the Bible. We read about people fasting, but the assumption is that they're giving up food. And then modern day Christians today, it's like, well, they'll still eat fruit and nuts.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, all that is just a way of pandering to our own flesh.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. It's just the way I feel.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are going to be hurt if they listen to this, but that's just what I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to clarify something real quick, because you've mentioned earlier that we, when we fast, it gives us more time to pray. Mm-hmm. I want to clarify what the point of fasting is. Is it just to abstain from food so that we have time to pray? Like we're just doing it so that we have extra time to do something else instead of preparing a meal? Or is there some significance to actually not putting food in our bodies? And how does that help us get closer
Good question.
to God?
Yeah, good question. Because when we deny the body food, Jesus answered, he said, I have food that you know not of. He's talking about the presence of the Holy Spirit. When we deny ourselves food, our ability of the spirit man to see into the spirit world actually increases. Mm-hmm. And you really won't experience that unless you do a full abstinence of food.
Yeah.
But when you do, I'm just telling you, you will see things. Maybe it'll be like a vision. or you'll have a dream,
right,
or you'll have a clarity of thought when you're reading a Bible. So it does have something more significant. When you deny the flesh, you are basically pushing the flesh down, and you're allowing the spirit man to take authority.
Right. Okay.
Because we live every single day in the flesh. You know, those five senses, you know, kind of lead us what we do and what we. When we're led by the Spirit, and the Bible tells us, you know, we're supposed to walk by the Spirit.
Yeah, not by the flesh.
Not by the flesh. So that the whole process of fasting is to deny the flesh, to help the spirit man retain control.
Okay.
I would add one last thing to that, and I heard this maybe 4 weeks ago. When you fast, you notice it in yourself that you are empty of food, and so other things rise up that you might have not noticed before. Maybe you're an angry person, and because you had food, you would satiate that, and you wouldn't recognize it. But now you're empty, and you can see what really comes out.
Yeah, good point.
And it gives you the opportunity to deal with that.
That's what will happen.
Yeah.
That's right. Give you the opportunity to do it. Now, just as a little caveat here, for people who have used the Daniel fast or who feel comfortable doing that, I don't think God looks on it any less, because he looks at the heart. So it really is more dependent on where your heart is with God.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, I had to answer by my conviction and what I think is best. But it doesn't mean that God doesn't look on that particular sacrifice, if you will, as pleasing to him, because I believe he does.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to walk away thinking that, you know, doing the Daniel fast is like not good and God doesn't is not pleased by it. Because I don't believe that.
Right.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I got that clear.
It's more of Daniel fast is more of a sacrifice, whereas fasting, abstaining from food completely, though it is a sacrifice, it's more than that, because you're opening yourself up more to the Holy Spirit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And on that note, we'll close. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you didn't enjoy this video, leave a comment. We'd love to read them. And leave your comments about videos you'd like to see in the future. And we'll catch you next time.